Chapter 10 of 7 Footprints to Satan by A. Merritt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. Chapter 10. The Necklace of Senusert. First link. I was Satan's bondservant for a year, bound to do whatsoever he commanded me. The balance of that afternoon I had spent in my room, alternating between intensive thought and hope of Barker catfooting it out of the wall. It was plain that my liberty was still limited. Not yet might I run with the pack. Tentative overtures to concertine following my retreat from the steps, a hint that perhaps I ought to make a tour of this citadel of the Prince of Darkness now I was enlisted among his legionaries, had met courteous but firm rebuff. He had gravely prescribed as a doctor the quietness of my chamber as a sedative for the nervous strain I had just undergone. What I had hoped for, of course, had been a chance to run across Eve. Reflection assured me that it was much more important at the moment to get in touch with the little Cockney burglar. As I waited, I tried to analyze the fever that had so swept me off my feet. I had thought myself cooler-headed, better balanced. The fact is that I was both ashamed of myself and uneasily puzzled. If I admitted that the intensity of the passion I had felt had been due to Satan's will, an actual compelling force pouring down upon me as I climbed the steps, well, at least that was an explanation to soothe my smarting pride. But if it left me with the comforting thought that my will was quite as strong as I had deemed it, it involved the humiliating alternative that it was far weaker than Satan's. I took no credit for abstaining from that next step which might have given me to him forever. It had been the warning whisper, whether from Eve's mind or my own subconscious one, that had pulled me back. And Satan's attitude puzzled me. Why had he been so bent on forcing me upward? Had it been simply the natural instinct of the gambler? The urge to win? Had the sight of those two symbols flashing out one after the other on his side of the telltale aroused the bloodlust in him? If one or both of them had been on my side of the globe, would he have shown the same eagerness? Or had he from the beginning willed me to go to the limit and lose? And if so, why? I could find no answer to the questions. Nor did Barker appear. And at last, Thomas aiding, I dressed and was escorted by way of walls and lifts to still another immense and vaulted chamber that, in size and trappings, might have been a feast hall of the Medicis in the golden prime of that magnificent clan. There were a score or more men and women at a great oval table with Satan at the head, his flawless evening dress giving him an oddly accentuated sardonic note. Plainly I was late, but as plainly informality was the custom. "Our newest recruit, James Kirkham." With no more introduction than this, Satan waved me to my appointed place. The others smiled and nodded and went on talking. As I seated myself, I saw with secret amazement that my right-hand neighbor was a certain famous actress whose name was seldom missing from Broadway's electrics. My rapid glance across the table showed me a polo player of enviable American lineage and international reputation, and a brilliant attorney high in the councils of Tammany Hall. The others were unknown to me, but one and all bore the stamp of unusual intelligence. If this were a representative slice of Satan's court, then indeed his organization must be quite as extraordinary as he had boasted. Eve was not there. Cobham was. Walter sat at the actress's right. As the dinner went on, I exerted myself to be pleasant to him. For my own reasons, I wanted no lurking enemies just then. He was a bit stiffish at first, then mellowed. He drank freely, but I noted with interest, not so freely as he would have liked. Very clearly, Walter loved to look upon the wine when it was not only red, but all along the rainbow. I thought at first that it was the restraint he had placed upon himself as to the rate of his consumption that stirred up in him antagonism against other inhibitions, and particularly that of discretion in expression of opinion. Then I realized it was the drink itself that bred in Cobham a stern passion for truth, a contempt for euphemisms and circumlocutions. What he wanted was the plain fact unadorned and no evasions. As he put it, no tampering with the formula. He was, in fact, an in vino veritas drinker of fundamentalist fervor. Also, he was amusing, and the actress was vastly entertained by our cross-conversation. Some day or other soon, I resolved, I would usefully irrigate Walter into such condition that he could not bear to leave even a shred of covering on the clear-eyed goddess of the verities. I was astonished to find that he was a chemist, and spent much time in his laboratory in the chateau. That explained his remark about the formula. He was very explicit in telling me what an amazing chemist he was. I was to learn later that he had not exaggerated. That is why I have lingered over his picture. It was a wonderful dinner, with a high note of sophistication and delicately reckless gaiety that had a constantly ringing undertone as of fine steel. The only hints as to our peculiar position were when the distinguished attorney, glancing at me, proposed a toast to the happy near damned, and when Satan sent for a casket and displayed some of the most magnificent jewels I have ever seen. He told their histories. This emerald set in turquoise was the seal which Cleopatra had pressed upon the letters she wrote to Antony. This necklace of diamonds was the one with which the Cardinal de Rohan had thought to buy the favors of Marie Antoinette, and so had set in motion that trial which had been one of the midwives of the Revolution, and finally cost the unhappy queen her head. This coronet had shone among the curls of Nell Gwyn, set there by Charles, her royal lover. This ring with its regal rubies had been given by Montespan to the poisoner La Voiture, for a love philtre to warm the cooling heart of the Roi de Soleil. At last he gave the flashing little Frenchwoman who sat at his right a bracelet of sapphires, that had been, he said, Lucrezia Borgia's. I wonder what she had done to deserve it, and if there were ironic significance in his naming of its old owner. If so, it made no difference in her delight. And it gave me an enormously increased respect for Satan's power that in this gathering there was no melodramatic secrecy, no masking, no stale concealment of names by numbers. His people met face to face. Evidently any thought of mutual betrayal was incredible, their faith in Satan's protection absolute. That all of them, or many of them, had witnessed my ordeal of the steps I had no doubt, nor that they had watched the tragedy of Cartwright. There was nothing to show it in their behavior. They bade good night to Satan. I arose and would have gone with them, but his eyes caught mine, and he shook his head. "Remain with me, James Kirkham," he commanded, and soon we were alone, the table cleared, the servants gone. "And so," his lashless eyes glittered at me over the edge of his great goblet, "and so you have lost." "Yet not so much as I might have, Satan," I smiled, "since had I gone but a bit higher, my fall might have been like that ancient one of yours, straight into hell." "A journey," he said blandly, "never devoid of interest. But a year soon passes, and then you shall have your chance again." "To fall, you mean?" I laughed. "You gamble against Satan," he reminded me, then shook his head. "No, you are wrong. My plans for you require your presence on earth. I commend, however, your prudence in climbing, and I admit you surprised me." "I have, then," I arose and bowed, "begun my bondage with a most notable achievement." "May we both find your year a profitable one," he said. "And now, James Kirkham, I claim my first service from you." I seated myself, waiting, with a little heightening of the pulse, for him to go on. "The Yunnan jades," he said. "It is true that I arranged matters so that you might retain them, if you were clever enough. It is also true that it would have amused me to have possessed the plaques. I was forced to choose between two interests. Obviously, whichever way the cards fell, I was bound to experience a half disappointment." "In other words, you observed, sir," I remarked solemnly, "that even you cannot have your cake and eat it too." "Exactly," he said. "Another blunder of a bunglingly devised world. The museum has the jades. Well, they shall keep them. But they must pay me for my half-disappointment. I have decided to accept something else that the museum owns which has long interested me. You shall persuade them to let me have it, James Kirkham." He raised his glass to me, ceremoniously, and drank. I followed suit, with no illusion as to the word he had used. "What is it?" I asked. "And what is to be my method of persuasion?" "The task," he said, "will not be a difficult one. It is, in truth, in the nature of the initial deed all knights of old were compelled to perform before they could receive the accolade. I follow the custom." "I bow to the rules, sir," I told him. "Many centuries ago," he continued, "a pharaoh summoned his greatest goldsmith, the Benvenuto Cellini of that day, and commanded him to make a necklace for his daughter. Whether it was for her birthday or her bridal, none knows. The goldsmith wrought it of finest gold and carnelian and lapis lazuli, and that green feldspar called aquamarine. At one side of the gold cartouche that bore in hieroglyphs the pharaoh's name he set a falcon crowned with the sun's disk, Horus, the son of Osiris, god in a fashion of love and guardian of happiness. On the other winged serpent, the uraeus bearing the looped cross with the crux ansata, the symbol of life. Below it he made a squatting god grasping sheaves of years, and set upon his elbow the tadpole symbol of eternity. Thus did the pharaoh by amulets and symbols invoke an eternity of love and life for his daughter. Alas for love and human hope and faith! The princess died, and the pharaoh died, and in time Horus and Osiris and all the gods of ancient Egypt died. But the beauty which that forgotten Cellini wrought in that necklace did not die. It could not. It was deathless. It lay for centuries with the mummy of that princess in her hidden coffin of stone. It will outlive the gods of today and the gods of 1,000 tomorrows. Undimmed, its beauty shines from it as it did 3,000 years ago, when the withered breast on which it was found throbbed with life and sobbed with love, and had, it may be, its fleeting shadow of that same beauty which in the necklace is immortal. "The necklace of Senusert II?" I exclaimed. "I know that lovely thing, Satan." "I must have that necklace, James Kirkham." I looked at him, disconcerted. If this was what he thought an easy service, what would he consider a difficult one? "It seems to me, Satan," I hazarded, "that you could hardly have picked an object less likely to be yielded up by any persuasion. It is guarded day and night. It lies in a cabinet in the center of a comparatively small room, in fact, and designedly in the most conspicuous part of that room, constantly under observation." "I must have it," he silenced me. "You shall get it for me. I answer now your second question. How? By obeying to the minute, to the second, without deviation, the instructions I am about to give you. Take your pencil, put down these o'clocks, fix them unalterably in your memory." He waited until I had obeyed the first part of his command. "You will leave here," he said, "at 10:30 tomorrow morning. Your journey will be so timed that you may drop out of the car and enter the museum at precisely 1 o'clock. You will be wearing a certain suit which your valet will give you. He will also pick out your overcoat, hat, and other articles of dress. You must, as is the rule, check your coat at the cloak room. From there you must go straight to the Yunnan Jades, the ostensible object of your visit. You may talk to whom you please, the more the better, in fact. But you must so manage that at precisely 1:45 you enter alone the north corridor of the Egyptian wing. You will interest yourself in its collections until 2:05, when you will enter upon the minute the room of the necklace. It has a guard for each of its 2 entrances. Do they know you?" "I'm not sure," I answered. "Probably so. At any rate, they know of me." "You will find an excuse to introduce yourself to one of the guards in the north corridor," he continued, "providing he does not know you by sight. You will do the same with one of the guards in the necklace room. You will then go to one of the 4 corners of that room, it does not matter which, and become absorbed in whatever is in the case before you. Your object will be to keep as far from you as possible either of the 2 attendants who conceivably might think it his duty to remain close to such." He raised his goblet to me. "A distinguished visitor. And James Kirkham, at precisely 2:15, you will walk to the cabinet containing the necklace, open it with an instrument which will be provided for you, take out the necklace, drop it into the ingenious pocket which you will find in the inside left of your coat, close the case noiselessly, and walk out." I looked at him incredulously. "Did you say walk out?" I asked. "Walk out," he repeated. "Carrying with me, I suppose," I suggested satirically, "the 2 guards?" "You will pay no attention to the guards," he said. "No?" I questioned. "But they will certainly be paying attention to me, Satan." "Do not interrupt me again," he ordered sternly enough. "You will do exactly as I am telling you. You will pay no attention to the guards. You will pay no attention to anything that may be happening around you. Remember, James Kirkham, this is vital. You will have but one thought, to open the case at exactly 2:15 and walk out of that room with Senusert's necklace in your possession. You will see nothing, hear nothing, do nothing but that. It will take you 2 minutes to reach the cloakroom. You will go from there straight to the outer doors. As you pass through them, you will step to the right, bend down, and tie a shoe. You will then walk down the steps to the street, still giving no attention to whatever may be occurring around you. You will see at the curb a blue limousine whose chauffeur will be polishing the right-hand headlight. You will enter that car and give the person you find inside it the necklace. The time should be then 2:20. It must not be later. You will drive with that person for 1 hour. At 3:20 you will find the car close to the obelisk behind the museum. You will descend from it there, walk to the avenue, take a taxi, and return to the Discoverers Club. The Discoverers Club, you said. I honestly thought in my astonishment that it had been a slip of his tongue. I repeat, the Discoverers Club, he answered. You will, upon arriving there, go straight to the desk and tell the clerk on duty that you have work to do that demands absolute concentration. You will instruct him not to disturb you with either telephone calls or visitors. You will say to him that it is more than likely reporters from the newspapers will try to get in touch with you. He will tell them that you left word that you would receive them at 8 o'clock. You will impress it upon him that the work which you have to do is most important and that you must not be disturbed. You will further instruct him to send up to your room at 7 o'clock all the late editions and extra editions of the afternoon papers. He paused. Is all clear? He demanded. All except what I am to say to the reporters, I said. You will know that, he replied enigmatically, after you have read the newspapers. He sipped from his goblet, regarding me appraisingly. Repeat my instructions, he ordered. Soberly, I did so. Good, he nodded. You understand, of course, that this small adventure is not the one that prompted my decision to acquire you. That will be a real adventure. This is in the nature of a test, and you must pass it. For your own sake, James Kirkham, you must pass it. His jewel-hard eyes held a snake-like glitter. Mad as the performance he had outlined seemed, he was in deadly earnest, no doubt about that. I did not answer him. He had left me nothing to say. And now, he touched a bell, no more excitement for you tonight. I am solicitous for the welfare of my subjects, even those on probation. Go to your room and sleep well. A panel opened, and Thomas stepped from the lift and stood waiting for me. Good night, Satan, I said. Good night, he answered. And however good it be, may your night tomorrow be a better one. It was close to 11 o'clock. The dinner had lasted longer than I had realized. I found everything comfortable in my bedroom, told Thomas so, and dismissed him. In about half an hour and 2 brandies and sodas, I turned out the lights and went to bed, hoping for Barker. Waiting wide-eyed in the darkness, I went over my amazing instructions. I was, it was plain, part of a more or less intricate jigsaw puzzle. I saw myself as a number of pieces that I must fit in, at the exact moments to click the whole design. Or better, I was a living chessman in one of those games in which Satan delighted. I must make my moves at the designated times, but what would his other chessmen be doing? And suppose one of them moved a bit too soon or too late, then where would I be in this unknown game? The picture of the glittering-eyed bald devil on the malachite slabs behind the 2 thrones came to me. Satan's double directing the hands of the fates. Oddly enough, it reassured me. The ethics of the matter did not bother me greatly. After all, the bulk of the treasures in any museum is loot. Loot of graves, of tombs, of lost cities. And what is not has been stolen, the most of it, time and again. But aside from all that, there was nothing else for me to do except obey Satan. If I did not, well, that was an end to me. I had no doubt of it, and Satan would go on. As for betraying him, why, I did not even know the place of my polite imprisonment. No, if it was in the cards that I might beat Satan, I must play the game with him. There was no other way. And what was any necklace beside Eve? I turned my head to memorizing my instructions. It put me to sleep. Nor did Barker awaken me. End of chapter 10.